Welcome to another episode of Movie Hour. I'm your host, Vivek, and joining me today is Vishish, and Ron. And today we're reviewing Midsommar, and we'll answer the question if it's worth it, if it's worth your time, I guess.
Isn't it Midsommar?
Is it
Yeah,
Midsommar? I don't
that's
know.
always been the thing. It's definitely spelled weird.
I thought it's pronounced Midsommar.
Midsummer.
Yeah.
Like as it would be if it were spelled correctly, but it's spelled incorrectly.
Yeah, I
That's their
assume it's
fun
just like
thing.
a play on words, I'm guessing. Just like it's Midsummer, but spelled, differently.
I thought it was
Maybe-
pronounced like that in the trailers.
Nah, no way.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if it means
Well,
anything.
we'll do
But
that.
continue.
Do that later.
How they say it with their accent. Oh yeah, Vashish saying it could be a Swedish thing.
Yeah, definitely could be.
That's what I'm assuming it is.
I'll look at it later. But
All right, so I guess we can describe the plot. Vishish, want to go ahead and describe it for the viewers?
the plot?
Yeah.
There's no plot.
Well, I got some haters, bro.
All right.
I think it has a little bit of plot until it doesn't. So I'll kind of agree with him.
Yeah, you got a group of kids that are almost stereotypical, like just teenagers in a way, but they're not. They're like or stereotypical college students, I guess you could say. They're going to Sweden. They know a guy who like they're kind of friends with that has like what is it?
A midsummer festival. That's that's kind of all he
Like,
says.
that
It
really
really
does.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's obviously a cult, but you don't really
No,
necessarily
they're a commune, dude.
you don't necessarily know
They're
that.
just friendly people
Do they ever
out in the
say they're
middle
a
of
commune?
Nowhere.
And yeah, they
Cults
go.
don't call themselves cults.
They try to be as if it's like supposed to be just a small knit thing, but obviously it is called like.
They're going for like research purposes. They got a research paper to do, and they also think it would be fun. The MC is just tagging along with their boyfriend because she got nothing to do, nothing better to do, pretty much because of her.
Are we getting into spoilers? How spoiler are we? We're just doing it, right? It's been out for a while.
She's messed up.
Yeah.
She's trying
It's
to
been
have
2
some.
years. If you haven't seen this movie, I don't think you'll ever see it. So I guess we.
It's on Amazon, so this is your chance now to go see it.
Yeah,
but
just spoil it.
she goes because her sister killed herself, and this was like her
Parents.
first time, I guess, getting back out there. And her sister killed her parents too.
Yeah.
Pretty dark stuff, which is what I want to talk about. But continue with the synopsis.
If
Yeah.
you can figure it out.
So yeah, they go there. They're like she's trying to like unwind, and then they're also there. Some of them are there for fun, but some of them are there for research. They have their fun or whatever, and then slowly, very slowly, but surely, it starts to get weird, and then crazy, really quickly, and then that's pretty much it.
And then it ends just like that.
Okay, so obviously this is just a basic summary, but unfortunately, that is kind of what the movie ends up being. They kind of get there, weird shit happens until the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of the one who's most positive about this movie. Where I was most invested was all the stuff before they ended up going to Sweden. We ended up taking our time before they even arrived there to establish our main character. Sorry, we don't know the main character's name. Do you guys know her?
No.
Florence Pugh is the actress.
I forgot her name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've been calling her Mopey. But anyway, for Mopey, her character essentially is just going through some real heavy emotional trauma because at the beginning of the film, her sister killed her, not only herself, but her parents in a really horrific way. And this is kind of how we enter the movie. So it automatically kind of sets you up for like the darker, twisted tone. For those who haven't seen it, sorry about that spoiler, but there's even a visual element of showing the sister having a gas mask, which is connected to some car engines that also have tubes
Her name is
connected to
Danny.
Exhaust. Yeah, that's right, Danny.
Her name is Danny.
Danny, there it is. And
Danny.
so rather than just, what the common suicide tactic would be, sit inside the car in the garage, she goes through this elaborate plan, and it shows her like covered in vomit and really disturbing imagery there. And you can see how that would mess up someone psychologically. And then her boyfriend at the time wanted to break up with her, and so we have this sort of tension of, well, I can't add more devastation into her life after such an event, which is all reasonable. And then we end up in Sweden, and the movie kind of derails from there, like where we have this really like elaborate setup of relationship trouble, as well as a sister who killed herself, and now the living person of the family, the orphan, is now having to figure out how to like deal with all these emotions. Instead, it just kind of goes wacky cults kills a bunch of teens, and it kind of like threw me off, especially because it was so slow as it continued with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh no, I was gonna say like he should have just broke up with her, because all this shit that happened to her, it's not gonna make her life more worse than it already is. So.
Damn, heartless.
Yeah, that's deep.
That's cold-blooded, bro.
Yeah, I would give her like 3 more months before I broke up with her.
Well, it doesn't. The movie doesn't tell you how much time passes, and that was kind of my thing. I wish they had given some indication between, when this trip happened from when the suicide happened, because I think it would have helped more so with gauging how much longer was this relationship being strung along.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to what you said about the beginning, I feel like this movie shined in the first 20 minutes, but afterwards, like it just kind of went downhill for me. I think the beginning was a really great setup, and I was interested to see how the movie was gonna go from this point on. But then you get into this just slow, boring cult stuff that didn't really go anywhere, and didn't really reveal itself as what kind of movie it was. And then the movie just ends. So I felt like they should.
Do you think
done more?
Was the cult stuff boring for you though? Like honestly, was it boring, or do you think it was too much of it?
A little boring. I feel like
I would say it's a little boring because what it tries to keep you interested in is just the creepy imagery, and like every like half an hour you get some creepy stuff, and then it goes on to being just like slow paced boring thing of just their relationship drama, and then another creepy imagery, and then it just keeps doing that for the next like hour and a half, and then that's it. And they all just slowly die one by one. Yeah, I think that when they got to the place in Sweden, that the whole getting there, I like that. Like it was pretty interesting to learn about this cult, and when those 2 old people died, and that was pretty intense. But I like all that stuff. But then it kind of like it stayed too long, and like this whole like learning about them, I guess it was just too it dragged out too long. That's what I'm trying to say. It just dragged out too long. Like the beginning part was good, but then it just dragged out a little bit too long. I do like all the disturbing stuff that was inside of it. I mean, I like all that shit. That's pretty good. But yeah, it just dragged out a little too long.
I can definitely feel the length of the movie, which was kind of to me a critique that I just couldn't find myself ignoring despite being engaged. Like I genuinely was interested, wanting to see what was happening. I'd seen the film twice. The first time I definitely found my engagement a lot higher. The second time I was just kind of in and out, looking at parts that I cared about. But when you're watching it, it feels its length only because there isn't a real sense of momentum. And this is like a common thing I complain about with movies. It's just kind of, as you put it, it's just kind of we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And as people are disappearing, there's no tension to it because you already know it's the cult. It's not like you're going, who in the cult is doing this? You kind of like figure at a point it's
all these creepy ass people.
Everybody's in on it.
So, and you know everyone's in on it. So it's not like a mystery element. It's not like a whodunit element. And the kills and people disappearing, plenty of it is off screen. So we don't have that sort of engagement of... Yeah, like a lot of horror movies, what they'll do if people are periodically being picked off, you get to see the gruesomeness of their kills and the moment. And that's a sell for, like horror junkies who are into like, the blood and guts and stuff. For me, I don't really care as much, but even then I felt as if I wanted a little bit more from people disappearing as compared to, where's Johnny? And they look around twice.
I'm sure he's fine.
And that's what happened for like an hour and a half of the movie. which I know obviously is a negative for most people, but I think the production value, like how pretty everything was, the setup and all of that, and I was kind of invested in the relationship drama, held it together just enough for me to like give it a positive.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a horror movie, like how they shot it and the color palette that they chose. It's very bright all the time, I like that. That's not bad. And like you said about like when it's just like a straight kind of like momentum in the movie. Usually in horror movies, you have a character where you're like seeing it kind of like through their eyes. So if something would happen, they're like investigating the movie with the audience, right? And a lot of things in this movie kind of happen with the audience seeing it, but we're not seeing it like the reaction through a character, like how like they're getting picked off screen without any other character really seeing it. So there's no like up and down in the like the pacing and the momentum of the movie through the emotion of the character. So that's why it just felt like a straight line throughout the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of the emotion was between just I'm in a relationship with a person who doesn't want to be in a relationship with me, and it was a lot of that was the visual conflict of the film, and all the other stuff of the people disappearing. It's so brief. I think the best example of it that we did get was actually at the start after the two old people kill themselves.
Yeah.
So we have that moment, they fall off, and the hammer smashing thing, which is insane.
He like off the rock on his foot, right? And you saw his like his leg bone pop out.
Oh, bro, it killed me. And I tried my best to not look at that scene. Like I knew it was coming. I was like, all right, let me just cover my face. And then the movie has like a habit of just flashing back to the imagery of it, and I was like, okay, so I have no choice but to watch this. But
the director has a thing with heads. The same thing with the last movie.
He loves it. He loves it. It's insane. But I bring up that moment because right after that happens, we get everyone's full reaction to something so crazy, because it doesn't directly involve them. It involves watching this happen and knowing that the cult was okay with it. And we have those two other characters that didn't travel with them, but that was already there. The British people. I think their characters to me illustrated that horror and terror the best, especially when one of them's like has that moment where her boyfriend had left, left, and she was like, he would never do that. That's so weird of him. And we have like this real awkward, like the cult trying their best to go, yeah, no, I swore I saw him get in the truck with those guys. Like that was the moment where I was like, ooh, this is interesting. But then after that, it wasn't any reaction. It was just more or less, I'm pretty sure they're okay. And a lot of characters going,
Yeah, just going back to just them blowing it off like nothing happened.
Which was so weird compared to the first time. I would have expected that continuously.
Yeah, and I think like the British characters being involved would have been a good attachment for us as how we felt. But after that scene, they just went back to being normal. So we just didn't. Yeah, we just didn't have anybody to attach to as a character, like you were saying. Because I didn't really care about Danny and Christian's relationship in the entire movie, and like if they are actually going to break up or whatever. I just after like the first two fights, I didn't care anymore, and the movie kept using it as like a tension device. So afterwards, I kind of just like, okay, can you move on? I don't care about your relationship problems anymore.
I had very minimal interest in that storyline, the relationship breaking up part. It wasn't to me too bad. I think it was real. It was authentic. He just kind of seemed aloof and disinterested in what she was going through and her as a person. So much so he didn't even know it was her birthday. And for her, it seemed like she was just latching onto him only because she had no one else at that point. She doesn't even seem to have like friends outside of her sister, like because there was no indication of, oh, let me bring this friend along, or even at the party when she's there, it's just these group of guys plus her, and it felt really it was kind of sad. But you're right, at a point it kind of was over reliant on that carrying the movie, and we did need a lot more tension built elsewhere, especially because people are disappearing. Like I even then, sorry to go so long-winded on that, but even then I would have liked if one of the characters would have wanted to leave for whatever reason, especially the kid that looks like Sid from Toy Story. Like if his character were to even be like, let's leave. I want to like find some women out here. Like or like this shit's boring. Like something like that, or too weird for me. There was never that. They were just so
Yeah,
submissive to being
I would
there.
have left that camp so long ago. That looked so boring and so creepy and everything.
After they went on like that hallucinogenic kind of trip, right? That was pretty cool. After that, and after seeing those people get killed, I would have been gone. Like that's
How did they convince them to stay after they just watched two people just get exploded?
They try to blame it the black dude and the boyfriend's character. They claim all of a sudden that they're gonna use this as their place of study for their research project, and that's some sort of tension moment too.
Yeah,
which
I was
was
gonna
like,
say that was like a small tension moment that the movie tried to like just inject in the middle of the movie. And I was like, okay, this came out of nowhere, but let's see what do you do with it. But then Josh, the black guy, he just dies. Then the next scene, and I'm like, this is
Yeah,
so
really
random.
quick too.
and then and the guy throws him under the bus. He's like, yeah, shouldn't have done that, blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah
what a
blah.
dick.
And it's like, what is this like random betrayal of what seemed to have been your homie? When I watched it the second time,
Acting
there's
like people.
setup for it. What?
Sorry, I was just saying they're not even acting like how normal people would act. In any other horror movie we watch, there's a little bit more caring about your friend or your spouse or whatever. They just brush it off like it's nothing. Like I don't get that. It's kind of weird.
And I wonder if we're supposed to believe it's due to the stuff they've been eating. Maybe it, has some sort of submissive qualities because they drink that water and they give him the spell juice or whatever that's supposed to like put him under. Whatever random BS that these people are like consuming since they first arrived with the mushrooms too. So like there was a part of me that was questioning, well, is all of this happening due to them like being under a trance of some sorts? But the movie wasn't explicit in demonstrating that to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that I'm supposed to just accept, and that's kind of unfair for the audience to go figure out the details on your own.
Yeah. That's where was like, when is it going to reveal itself? Because I don't know if this cult has like a demon kind of thing going on, or if the cult just has like these like magic, like remedies kind of stuff.
I thought I would learn more about the cult, but I felt like I didn't actually learn throughout the whole length and long time of the movie. I thought I was gonna learn some stuff, but I feel like I didn't really learn much about the cult or like how they're just like confusing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's like no reveal for like what this cult kind of is, what they're doing. Is there a demon? What does the juice do? Like you John was saying, could be like suppressing like their like the urge to leave or whatever, or just like put them in this trance. And even when there was some kind of investigation that Josh was trying to do, when he was like sneaking out in the middle of the night to go read the book, I was like, oh, perfect. I'm gonna get some like exposition or like reveal, but he dies, and I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
they
useless.
didn't really give us much on that. I remember I watched this with some friends, and I remember asking, like, "Hey, like, what's up with the kid who's incest born and the drawings? Are they gonna like explain that?" And they're like, "Yeah, they kind of just did. Like, he's just writing down their history." And I was like, "Well, what's the history?" And it doesn't really tell you, And it's a lot of moments like that where it's vague answers given in order to not be completely incoherent, but it's not enough to be satisfying.
Yeah.
So most of the time you're piecing together so much in your own head that, especially with the fact of the movie being so drawn out and essentially dull, you're just kind of like, what's going on? Why do I care? And if you're not so swept up in the beauty of it all and just the fact that it's just so fucking weird, then you might not care. And I think that's probably the biggest, to me, the biggest concern when I'm suggesting a movie like this. It's like, just be prepared for something that's going to be slow and not give you all the answers, but you can enjoy it just for the sake of it.
Yeah, like you could visually give exposition, just by the visuals, but I think this movie does a bad job at that. Like they don't explain a lot, and what they do show you still doesn't like give you that much understanding of the cult and why things are happening.
Do you think the pictures helped at all? Like the drawings that are on like the walls and stuff?
I haven't seen the movie
Oh.
in a while, so if I maybe watch it again, maybe I'll pay attention more to that. But maybe if I saw it again, I maybe. What was on the pictures? What was it? They had those like quilt stuff, right? With the drawings.
Yeah, it's just obscure drawings that they're not really telling the story of the film, but they're supposed to act as if like it's backstory for the cult, or more so like a visual illustration of their rituals and such.
Okay. So like, what happens in that drawing? Um, is that kind of like what happens throughout the movie?
Yeah, that's what supposedly is what's going on. Like for example, remember the scene where Sid from Toy Story eats the pie and it has the hair in it?
Yeah.
There's like one of the drawings where it shows like a woman like cutting out her like shit and
Yeah, pubic hair.
yeah,
Yeah.
and putting it in the pie. And it's at the end of the drawing, it's like them with like a little heart and stuff. So there's moments like that where it's showing me visuals of stuff that's going to happen or is happening, but there's no context of why or anything, which is what you guys seem to be wanting.
And that's what I guess why it feels hollow, right? It's because there's really not a clear understanding of what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's like the cult's supposed to like accomplish like these like different criterias every like midsummer festival, like
Every solstice, so summer and winter, I believe.
And what are they getting from doing this ritual?
Who knows?
They say you get like a good harvest.
Crops are doing good.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so weird. I guess you're supposed to view this in a way that's similar to modern day traditions. For example, the closest one I can think of is like circumcision. Like that's something that by all accounts objectively is kind of strange. A newborn child is brought and we cut off their foreskin for whatever reason, right? But maybe it's supposed to be like religion tells us, or in this case, history and our people and ancestry teach us to do these things, and it's our job just to keep it up, even if it doesn't necessarily have any root in reality, in today's reality. It just feels like still hollow regardless, though.
It's just tradition, pretty much.
Yeah, it does feel like just tradition, and I don't know if that's enough for this movie per se. At least not. It doesn't seem like it for you. What did you guys like about it? I'm curious.
I guess the acting, I guess, and the visuals, and I think that's pretty much as far as I go. I mean, I like the first 20 minutes of the movie, which is what I expected, like the movie was going to be, or at least like that tone. But that's as far as I think I am, because like, the story has to be the driving force of how, if I like the movie, and I wasn't really driven with the story, so that's where I'm at. I don't know, but you Pishish and Vashish.
I mean, I think it's creative. That's probably like the best part about it, is that it is creative, and it's weird. It's interesting to watch, but overall, there's not much else I like about it than that I can really say. I don't even think there's not really much score, to be honest, and there's not.
No, there's some moments where it's just ambient yodeling type music or something.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Nothing that I'm impressed by, though, to be honest.
That's fair.
I like what they said. Like, it's creative, it's original, the acting is good, the cinematography is really good. I like all the disturbing things that happens throughout the movie. It's not a bad movie, I don't hate the movie. I like it, but I think compared to his first one, it's definitely the weakest one, and it's hollow. At least for me, like I think that this could have been more emotion, and especially in the first 20 minutes of the movie, like what happened to her parents and her sister, I think was more compelling, and there's probably a better story there than most of this movie.
I would totally agree with you, actually.
Yeah.
Like, totally. I think in that first section, like we all agree, like that's the strongest part, and it feels like almost two separate movies were combined. It's like there's this stuff that happens with her and her family and the trauma there, and then we have a completely different movie about a weird cult, and their only things that tie those two moral things, or those two like dilemmas together, is the fact that one of the people on the cult vacation is dealing with all this trauma, but it's feels like they could have given us more and they should have. There are moments where they like show flashbacks of like the dead sister and parents, but it's not really used in a way that amplifies the ending. I was hoping maybe even they would have chosen her because she's gone through so much of this trauma and they needed someone like that. But that's even vague because the decision for May Queen was just who stood up the longest in a weird dance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what that.
it's just kind of random.
That was a
things.
long scene too for no reason. But
yeah, it's like random things that they don't explain that it is happening to our main character, but we don't really know why they're doing it. And the thing with her parents, do you think that's gonna come into play later in the end, or maybe throughout the movies? Maybe she'll get flashback of both of her parents and her sister alive, and we're seeing like their relationship, but that never comes into play.
Yeah, you don't really know their relationship either.
No, yeah. All we're getting is they're writing a turn paper about Midsommar event, the dynamic with her and her boyfriend, and the weird shit happening. It's not a lot of compelling. The fact that they chose for these people to write a paper on this, and then they kind of like the what's it called, like like a sitcom kind of thing of like, will they get together and shit throughout the whole movie is just kind of
Will they, won't they?
weak. Yeah, the will they won't. That's kind of weak. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you think the movie could have done without the beginning scenes, like the first 20 minutes, or you think they should have been left there?
The movie would have been almost exactly the same without that beginning.
Yeah.
Except we would have been missing a really good beginning, like if
Yeah.
that makes sense, because it's
that
just
makes sense.
not used throughout. And even the moments where they do have brief glimpses of like the sister and the parents, it's not like it's so apparent to the audience. It's like more so like Easter eggy, where you'll see them behind her. Like there's a shot where you see her behind her in the mirror, or like you'll see like the mom sitting at the table. Yeah, it's like little things like that. Where almost you might not even notice unless you were like eagle-eyed, like, oh man, let me see this.
Yeah.
And even if you do notice, it doesn't do more beyond further illustrate she's dealing with something, but she's dealing with something that we aren't really given a lot of breath with. She's not really given a moment to really express this emotion in a way or talk this out. We get a small scene with her and the creepy Swedish dude when he's talking about his family dying in a fire, which, fun fact, that means his parents would have been part of the end ceremony, which is cool. Like a nice little tie together.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all we get between like her and another character really going through it. I would have loved a scene with her and her man, like going through like a fight between, you've changed since this happened. We're not doing this anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Kind of like what Scream does, where his whole thing is I'm not able to sleep with her because her mom died. Something like that at least.
Yeah, and they say this movie is supposed to be like the theme is supposed to be grief, and I think I can give the movie credit for that because the movie does feel like very heavy in terms of like her grief and what she's going through. I don't know.
She's great.
Yeah,
great acting.
Yeah, she did a really good job at it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys feel the same way too. Like you guys,
I like her acting. I don't like pretty much most of the other actors that much though. Well, I think they're all decent, but I didn't like the boyfriend's acting actually.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are you supposed to like it though? Is it like you didn't like his acting or you didn't like him? Because you're not supposed to like him. It seemed pretty obvious.
I definitely don't like him, but sometimes the acting was a little weird. But yeah.
I think mostly, I think everyone did a good job. She did the best. The main character, she did what she had to do in this role. She did a really good job. The black guy that died, I was invested more into him before he got killed and shit. Like I'm like, what? Why they have to kill him? Like he was actually trying to do something to help. Like
he was the only one actively like researching. So like we were learning a lot through his character.
Yeah, and then they kill him off, and I'm like, wow, okay, so that's it. The Josh guy, had this name Josh, the boyfriend, right?
Josh is the black guy.
Oh, sorry. Christian is the boyfriend. Okay. Christian, I think he did a good job, like, for us not liking him. He did a good job with that. And I do like him because he does have a lot to do at the end of the movie in his performance with the whole sex thing that happened.
That was weird and unnecessary.
Yeah,
That was just there, that was like runtime, like filler.
yeah.
Or just because it didn't do anything. Like
It
she
didn't
didn't
do
have a baby, and
Yeah.
it was just like, what? Why?
It's like shock value or something, kind of like the beginning. Because I think that the reason why the beginning probably happened too was because when you watch a movie and if the movie started out as slow as the middle was, maybe a lot of people would have changed it. And because we saw
Yeah,
at the beginning, it kept me into it until we got to we realized, oh wow, it's a slow burn movie. But the beginning, I think that's probably one reason why they did that.
that actually makes a lot of sense. I would be inclined to genuinely believe they just wanted
Yeah.
something to push the story forward, and they couldn't think of, well, not that they couldn't think of anything, but this is what they settled on. And I almost wish that this beginning was either omitted completely or would have been more of the movie. And either way, it wouldn't be the same movie, but I think it might have been a stronger movie.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because I think if that beginning scene was gone, I would have been a lot harder in the movie, and I think I've been more critical. Go back to that sex scene. Yeah, that was super weird, and there's all those ladies in there, and then but she looked through the keyhole, so I feel like she would have been like, "Oh, this is kind of strange. Maybe he's been like in a trance or something, or he's
She
been
like threw up, didn't she? Wasn't she like
Yeah.
She was grossed
Yeah.
out enough to throw up from it. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of extreme.
I feel like she'd have been like, "Oh, he seems like he's being forced to do this. Let me go stop this."
How did she even know it was him? I don't know. They
That
can't
was
even-
I
how
was
did you even-
expecting her to stop it, and like her intervention in that act would have been like some sort of defying an act because like the May
Yeah.
Queen isn't supposed to, whatever, something like that. And it didn't happen. They were so separated for most of it. And I guess her punishment for him was to let him burn. But like,
Yeah.
so what?
I was actually gonna talk about that too. It's like, okay, so if I guess if you were if Lauren was in her shoes and then you did this, but like
Oh my god.
all this stuff happened, right? All this weird shit happened. You think Lauren would just kill you for just one moment, even though you guys have
I
had,
would
like,
fucking hope not. Like, but,
even if you guys
I
had
hope
like
I'm not
what?
too like vulgar with that, but no, I would really hope not. That'd be insane.
Yeah,
I
even though
did
you guys
talk to
had
Lauren
like 2
about it
years,
though.
right? You guys been
Like-
together for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, like going on to 3 years. Imagine you're getting killed because you are part of a cult initiation thing that you had no awareness of because you were drugged, as this girl is clearly as well, seemingly. And then you choose me to burn to death.
Yeah,
Like-
after this, like, I think that's a
Like-
little much.
And it's kind of insane, especially because like he was aloof, but he wasn't abusive in any way, if that makes sense. Like he was aloof in a way where he didn't seem so aware of what she was going through and her birthday and such, things that are wrong and calls for a shitty person, but not something that calls for like vindication or revenge. And it felt weird that was her moment of deciding she wanted to get revenge on her boyfriend, which is what that act is, by choosing him. And maybe she just felt so much jealous rage because he's sleeping with these people or whatever. But then it makes me question why she just didn't intervene. Like it seems like intervening would have been the move, but she like stumbles away and throws up, and then like they're trying to calm her, but it's just like I didn't buy it. I didn't really buy that interaction.
calm her down in a very weird scene.
Oh, sorry, would you say Vishish?
No, they were trying to calm her down with a very weird like sequence.
All like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, a lot of moments like that just kind of go on and on. And that moment's cool, I'll give him that, but there's too many moments like that.
Yeah, I don't like to like when movies do that, when she's seeing what's happening in the barn and then she just backs away and doesn't intervene, right? It's like, why not have the two characters that is having a problem talk to each other? They're right there, right? Just talk. The only reason that is so that we could go on to some more dramatic and crazy. But I don't like when that happens. To me, it's kind of like old writing, when the two characters right there just don't say what's on their mind, and then that could change so much things. He could still be alive. He's probably, he's under some kind of trance or spell, right? Whatever, he's drugged, right? And there, throughout the whole movie, she's noticing all these weird things happening. So for her boyfriend to be doing this, it must be because he's drugged. right?
Or must because something's up. She even drank that water, like the same like weird thing. Like it was just so I not want to say annoying, but it was one of the few moments in the movies where I just couldn't believe it, and I was upset at the movie for making me accept that she would just not care enough to stop him, or that there wouldn't be a moment, because I looked at the runtime by then, but there wouldn't be a moment where these two characters have that like sort of heated argument or discussion or confrontation that was necessary. Because there was a moment at the beginning where she first finds out that he planned on going to Sweden, and we have like this back and forth, which was really good. I thought it was great, even. And that's probably the closest we get to having a moment like that, as far as I remember. Nothing else.
They didn't continue with that stuff. Yeah, having moments like that. There was that and the birthday thing, but then they kind of stopped. They kind of like weren't for like the last hour of the movie. They pretty much didn't even talk to each other.
Yeah, not at all.
They were completely different areas, separate. Yeah,
and if that's where we were so focused for most of the movie, because it wasn't an intrigue of who did it, as I mentioned before, and you guys all agree, like the tension was their relationship, the would they, won't they, blah blah blah, and never gives us a real moment of okay, they're not going to, or okay, they're gonna figure it out. So by the end, because they've been so separated, and she just sees him do this thing and chooses him, there's no real weight to that decision. You know she's gonna like choose to burn him because it's a movie, but like you're not like, oh yeah, like he definitely had that coming after that fight. Or you're never like, oh, like this is heartbreaking and can't believe like even after they said they were gonna try to work it out.
Like if he had said like you said, if they got into a fight, but in that last hour or 30 minutes of the movie, they had like a really bad fight, and he probably said something that's like crazy about her dead parents and her sister, to carry that ending to her picking him to be burnt. I probably would have believed it a little bit more, but there was not like to show the beginning and then not bring it into play the end, because that would have been a perfect opportunity to have him say something in the heated rage of a fight about her dead parents and sister. They could have done something like that, but I don't know why they chose the ending that they did. Yeah. Like if I was her, I would have just killed the other two guys. Like pick the cult members, like knock them out instead of killing your boyfriend and leave.
Yep.
Like, I don't get it. Like,
logic doesn't exist. It's the will of
part of the cult, I guess.
And wasn't there like somebody's foot like appearing from the sand, like a dead person's foot, like sticking out from the sand?
Yeah, the black dude.
Right? They didn't even try burying him.
Like nobody cared or nobody saw it.
Yeah, that was also my thing.
They didn't even try burying him.
Because when the other two people disappeared, they almost seem to hint that they baked them into the food. There's like one of them disappeared, and then there's like a really lingering shot on the things that they're baking, and you're supposed to go,
they're making
like,
meat pies.
Yeah, and it's meat pies. So like there's all that sort of innuendo of you guys are eating a human being. But for him, we needed that moment visually for the audience, but it didn't make sense in the context of the story. Because we have the boyfriend running away, and then he sees it, he's like, oh, and then you see like the filleted guy who has like the butterfly wing skin or whatever, and then we're having all of these. We need to show and shock the audience because the movie's ending moments, but it wasn't any sort of contextual meaning for any of it. It was just really shock alone.
I was actually gonna bring that up too. Yeah, like this was the moment in the movie where I just had to check off the box where it's like, okay, so this guy, they're all dead. So the audience feels like, oh, those characters are resolved.
They've all been gone for an hour, by the way.
Oh my god! Exactly. So it wasn't even a reveal because we knew they were dead. Like it would have been more revealing if for whatever reason they were still alive and blah 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 blah. But they were dead, so it's just like, why do I care? Especially because the dude is being burned alive, and the two townspeople are being burned alive, and we experience that, and the people are told they're not going to feel any pain, but they clearly do, and they're like shouting and stuff. Like that was visceral. But then we just have a bunch of stuffed dead bodies of people behind us, people that we've grown attached to or detached to because they've been missing for the past hour. So it's just kind of like, okay, like everyone burns. That's it.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I didn't get it too because you could have burned them, but you decided to kill them and then just use stick figures. So like it was.
If they were kept alive in that moment, and then you see them all together again, and like had something like that, I think that would have been even more effective.
Yeah, that would have been a better way to do that scene.
Oh, well.
Okay.
How do you guys feel about Pell? Is that his name? Pele? The Swedish guy. The
Oh,
friend.
maybe it was. I don't remember his name.
Pele.
Yeah.
I thought he was a creep immediately.
He is a creep.
Like the first time he had an interaction with her, he was way too smiley.
Yeah,
And I was
want
like,
you to go to the most. You don't even know me.
that was alone. I was like, okay, so he's the bad guy. And that's all I needed.
Obviously, the moment I saw him, I was like, yeah, you're obviously the bad guy. You're too poor. You're too creepy. Yeah.
And I wish they had made it where it was like, he was a villain that you thought was like justified in some sort of way. Like,
a part of me was thinking that maybe he didn't know. He's not gonna know what they're gonna do, but it becomes clear quickly that literally everybody's in on it.
Something to sympathize with him. Like he was tricked into this, and then he has a moment where he's like, you didn't tell me it was going to be like this. Like, I wish it wasn't. Or like they would have given him like what Saw does, where it's like, these were bad people, so we chose them to teach them a lesson about life. Like, where Jigsaw or whoever's running it, it's obviously evil, but they try to give some sort of justification for their actions that have some specificity to those characters, as compared to, I just happened to go to college with these people and I just so happened to convince these people to do it. Like, there wasn't any sort of intent or planning on his end that we could have been aware of. It almost seems as if he just had to go out and find the first 5 people to say yes, and then these just happened to be them, and one of them happened to go through this traumatic experience. But there's that moment where he says, I'm especially happy that it's you. And then it made me think, well, he couldn't have prepared or planned for the sister to have killed herself. So was he involved or something? And the movie doesn't give me that either.
Yeah. The way that she killed her family, the sister killed her family herself, like I said before, you can think of 4 or 5 easier ways to go about killing your family and yourself. I don't know why they picked that way, but it definitely made me want to watch the movie more.
Yeah, I was actually telling him that too. It was like, yeah, those like really awful ways to kill yourself. If I was trying to commit suicide and I took the time
Allegedly.
and I took the time to attach a hose to a car and run up to my room, duct tape my mouth with the hose shut, I'm not gonna sit there for like the whole minute it takes to suffocate. I'm gonna like throw up or like try to push it off me. Like I think that's just a reaction any human would.
But she did throw up. Like there's like vomit on her like shirt and stuff.
Okay, but like she also didn't push it off of her. She kept it on her. So I was like, I don't think like any human would, go through that pain of just holding it on to you. I feel like a more like common way to kill yourself would just been like take pills or shoot yourself or cut your wrist, I guess.
Yeah, and if they're going to show something so elaborate, it should have had some reason or rationale behind it, and there never was anything.
Exactly. And when people, kill themselves, they always pick the easiest way that is the least painful, painless, and even if they do a crazy way like hanging yourself, they make sure it's a way where once they trigger this event, there's no way to come back for it. Like hanging yourself or jumping off of a building or setting yourself on fire, right?
Mhm.
It's really, as soon as you do this, that's it, So for her to kill herself that way, is just it's kind of hard to believe.
It's dark.
Without
it's
somebody
disturbing.
killing.
It's like it's dark. It's disturbing. It's scary even, but it means nothing because the movie decides not to give it any meaning. It just is what happened, and that's to me like kind of the most disappointing story beat out of all of them. Like, we can complain about like the whodunit and the people just disappearing and no one caring, blah blah blah. But out of all the story beats, to me, her doing something so elaborate, so dark and sinister, and then it not have any sort of implication for the rest of the movie, was to me just so confusing. Like it didn't have anything to do with anything else. And her parents died along with it too, so it was a murder suicide. So there was no sort of like, what did her parents do to deserve this? Why was the sister in such a crazy state of mind? None of that. And as I said, if Pele were some convoluted way attached to this happening, and that's what led to the domino effect of her going to Sweden, etc., then I could have bought into the movie a little bit more and justified her actions. But instead, it just feels like, what's the most fucked up thing we can think of? Let's do that and let's carry on.
And that's probably why they did it. Like if they would showed like a twist that he was the one that killed her parents and her sister, that probably would have been like, oh shit, dang, he's the guy. He set up these chains of events to happen, but it's thrown away like nothing. So that makes me think there's the goddamn killer back in her in America, wherever she's living. Somebody probably got away with murder.
Probably.
Where's that movie at? I want to see that.
We'll wait for midwinter.
But it's
sequel to the movie.
It's gonna be like WIM.
He made this 1 year after Hereditary.
You gotta spell it all weird, yeah.
All right, so I think we hit all the points of this movie basically. So I think we could go into like not really a score, because I think I want to do something different where it's like kind of like, is it worth your time? So we'll do like pass, up to you, or definitely watch. So I'll go first. After like talking about the movie and just kind of like giving me some time for my thoughts, I think I would recommend this movie as a pass. I don't think
it's not a recommendation to pass. You can't recommend it as a pass. You're just saying, nah, don't even watch it.
Yeah, watch it. I mean, I kind of wish I had my time back, to be honest.
Yeah, you want a refund? That's a whole other category. I want a refund now.
And I can't even get a refund too. I can't refund my time. Damn.
Sucks.
Yeah, I don't think the movie held up strongly, like story wise. I mean, it has some good moments, but I don't think it was enough to compel me to recommend the movie to anybody else. As I said, like I told you guys this when I was watching it, I'm just checking the time like every half hour, and then slowly realizing this movie's still going. It's not.
I have to admit, it was one of the few movies where I felt the time. I even paused it because I was like, I wanted to know how much time is left, and I went to pee because I knew I couldn't hold it because of how much time was left. I was like, damn, this is
I checked it too, and I couldn't believe my eyes when it was only a third of the way done.
Because I know I paused this movie and it was like, it had like an hour left, and I'm like, yeah, this movie is not gonna show me itself. It's not gonna reveal anything to me. This is the movie, and this is how the movie's gonna end. And it did end like that. Like it just ended, and I'm like, wow, well, that's that.
It's inspired by like The Wicker Man or something. That's what it seems like. Have you guys seen The Wicker Man?
I have not seen The Wicker Man.
Yeah, it's just the older one. The older Wicker Man does it a lot better. And like The Exorcist does a story like this, a slow kind of burn story, that has weird things in it.
You did watch that.
And these are older movies from the 70s.
Yeah.
But
so
the movie's not bad, it's not a bad movie. It's just,
would you recommend it? What's your score?
I pass, up to you, or watch.
Well, I think if you like are a film fan, and if you do like slow burn movies, and you're a fan of horror movies, that it's original for sure. If you're a fan of film, I say you should watch it, because it's always good to keep watching movies, especially if you want to get into it and stuff like that. But if you want to watch something that is like that you like always going to be engaged with it, like it's always going to have these emotional roller coasters throughout the movie. It's not slow. It doesn't feel dragging. Don't watch it. You probably might feel like it's a waste of your time.
I actually think that's a good idea. Just pitching on the fly, like Vavasha says, to recommend a different movie instead, like Wicker Man or The Exorcist. Like if you weren't to be into it, because I think this movie is definitely up to you. Personally, I think if you are a fan of film, then there's a lot to appreciate in a production standpoint. Beautiful cinematography, amazing set design, amazing costume design, I liked the very
Yeah, that's
minimal
pretty
score
good.
that was there. I thought the acting was really good, but all of that doesn't make for a great story, unfortunately. And Midsummer to me doesn't have a great story. It has sprinkles of what could have been a great story, but ultimately you're just kind of, scraping together some really good tasting crumbs, but you're not satisfied by the end. So, like,
The breading of the
I don't know
fried
what movie I
chicken.
would recommend instead.
Pringles
That's similar to Midsummer, but I would say watch Hereditary if you haven't. That's a
Yeah.
better example of
Same director.
Ari Aster's filmography and his style. It has a lot of the same sort of emotionally gut wrenching beats, but in a package that's a lot more satisfying if you can do a slow burn sort of movie. So Hereditary is my recommendation. It's up to you if you really want to watch this.
And for what you just said too, like his name was like Ari Aster, right?
Ari Aster, yeah.
Yeah, his first movie I think is a masterpiece. I think Hereditary is a really, really good movie. It's
Same.
one of the best movies of the past 5-10 years, whatever, when it comes to horror. So we're both films of fan and horror, so that's why I recommend this movie. But yeah, Hereditary is a great movie, and I really am invested in his career and what he does next.
Yeah, I still would, even with this, I'd still want to see whatever he's doing next.
Yeah.
What are you, Vicious? What are you saying?
I. What's the second one?
It's up to you. Watch or pass.
Yeah, it's definitely up to you. I feel like this is something that you should just watch with your friends. And I feel like that's probably it. I don't think
with your friends. I think it could be fun because everyone, you can kind of play a game almost like which one of these people are you? Like I'd be the guy who was fucking out of there but died because I was trying to get out of there. The British dude.
Yeah, I think that's. I feel like that's probably the best thing for this film. I wouldn't watch it by myself, definitely not again. And then, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a must watch either. It just isn't. But it's not garbage, so I can't say you should necessarily avoid it. But if you want to, to me it just lies in that category where it's up to you if you want to have fun with friends and watch it and just see what it is, So yeah.
All right, so we have 3 up to yous and 1 hard pass. Damn.
Makes that fuck Midsummer, bro. I don't even like the sun. Hate summertime.
I mean, I can see where you guys are coming from. Yeah, it's a hard pass for me. That's my recommendation. But I would also say just watch Hereditary, which is a lot better movie.
Yeah.
But all right. So I think for that we can wrap it up. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.